Hi again, my lovely listeners, and here we are, week 2 into the new year, or week 31 if we're going by the chapters and how many weeks I've been reading to you. So without further ado, let's get on with chapter 31 of Where Did Your Heart Go? By me, Audrina Lane. As I climbed the stairs to bed, holding the diary in my hands, part of me wanted to put it back in my daughter's room. But in the end I kept it with me, and once I was under the covers I continued to read. I wondered what Charlie was doing at Mitchell's house. Was she being sensible with her heart? I read on, trying to forget the dangers of falling in love. Dear Diary, Sunday the 2nd of October, 1988. After a sleepless night filled with worries and despair, I awoke to a kiss from James, and immediately felt better as my hands pulled him close and our tongues collided hungrily. I wanted him to know that I loved him with every inch of my body and mind. I manoeuvred into place on top of him, and as I could feel he was already hard, and I was most definitely moist, I lowered myself down on him and started to ride. Slowly at first, but then faster and faster, until neither of us was in control of our bodies. They were in control of us. His finger reached down and found my clit, and he started to stroke it slowly as I ground myself harder onto him. I was pulsing as I bit my lip to stop myself from screaming. The sensation started to become almost too much to bear, pushing us harder and faster to the point of no return. I'd read about multiple orgasms, but knowing how difficult it was to experience just one, I was sure they didn't exist until that moment of pure pleasure. Our worlds collided and spun us out of control into a space filled with love, lust and desire, all rolled into a ball of light. I let myself surrender to the waves that crashed through my body over and over again, leaving me a wreck in his arms. We lay there not able to move or even speak. But with his arms wrapped tightly around me, I again felt safe and secure in our love. Pushing the covers off our hot and sweaty bodies, the coolness enveloped our skin and helped us return to earth. Till the end of time, James murmured, as we drifted together. You take my breath away, I replied, grazing his lips with mine. I could still taste the faint tang of blood from where I'd bitten down earlier. We spent a lazy Sunday around the house as the weather was still wet and wild. After Sunday lunch with Pam and Peter, I reluctantly packed my bag and we drove back to my place. Although I always enjoyed the drive sat next to James, I also hated the ones that tore us apart at the end. Why was life so unfair to have separated us all those months ago? So we had to take the pleasure where we could and deal with the pain for the rest of the time in between. To spending a final couple of hours together in my room, just smooching, we had to say goodbye. How I hated goodbyes as I stood once more on the doorstep of my home, watching the red of his tail lights disappear into the darkness of the night. I returned to my room and buried my head in the pillow, crying once again. How many tears of pain had fallen from them? How many more were to come before I could at last claim my life as my own and be with James forever? Rick Astley's voice through my speakers both calmed and consoled me, as I vowed that my life would be as wonderful as music proclaimed it to be. I sat back and closed the diary to consider the lines I had written. How naive I had been, so full of certainty that my life would work out as I'd planned it in my dreams. I thought about my daughter Charlotte and hoped she would not be the same, although first love was an extremely powerful drug to resist. I remembered back to the night in France, when Mark had proposed to me. We'd been on holiday together, strolling along a moonlit beach, when he dropped to his knees in front of me and popped the ultimate question. I had said yes, even though my heart had dredged up memories of another beach in another time and place. I had left my heart drawn there in the sand, but it had been swept away even though I had tried to reclaim it. The tide's relentless. Mark had been a kind and caring friend. He had always wanted more. I had seen it in his eyes. Eyes were like the windows of a person's soul, and if you looked close enough you could see what they were thinking and feeling deep down. My eyes had been like that until the moment my world had almost ended, and then they became hazy and dark. I shaded my thoughts and smothered my feelings to keep the pain away. It was as though my world had been in colour and then faded into black and white. There had been no way to save myself from this fear that evaded my every waking moment. We hung out with Sarah and Chris, and I guessed that to all eyes Mark and me looked like the perfect couple. We had been joined together in the one act that I'd committed after the bells had chimed in the start of 1989. None of us had ever talked about it much since then. Yet it had hung between us. Even now I would catch Sarah's gaze at my scars and see her shudder from the memories. I had sidestepped questions from my curious daughter over the years, yet if I let her read this diary, she would soon know what I had done. Would it upset her to know how I'd really felt about her father? Would it save her from falling too deeply, or was that just a risk that everyone took in their lives? Turning off the light, I lay there and wondered if my life would have been different if I hadn't fallen in love at 16. If I had somehow waited until I was older. Would it have felt better or different? Then as sleep claimed me, I was once again on the beach in the sun, James beside me as I laughed and drew the heart in the sand. My body tingled slightly as I remembered our time together in the hotel room, and then in the moonlit garden for his 21st birthday. As my dream continued, I was back in that garden, searching through the leaves of the apple trees, searching for a man of 45 who held my heart. This man would always have a part of me with him, and I would always be searching for it. My bare feet crept between the shards of broken mirror that littered the lawn, and lay intermingled with droplets of blood and a ripped-up invitation. Even in sleep I couldn't escape my memories, as they fell like grains of sand through the hourglass of my life, tears falling and staining my pillow. When I woke up the next morning, I noticed my scar was red and angry. I must have been rubbing it whilst I slept. Putting on my jeans and jumper, I decided to go out for a walk and a swim, to clear my head of all the dreams and nightmares of last night. It would serve me right for drinking a whole bottle of wine alone. Once in town, I bought a bottle of water from the supermarket and then wandered into the leisure centre car park and walked towards the faded facade of the pool, realising that it looked like I felt, unloved. As I climbed the steps and entered the doors, I realised I hadn't been there for ages. It had always been the one place where I felt calm. As I changed into my swimsuit, I heard voices laughing from the poolside and spotted a couple of girls, about 17 or 18, chatting to the lifeguard as he tried to remain alert despite the distraction. I grinned as I dived into the cool water and ploughed up and down between the other swimmers. The monotony of the task in hand helped to soothe my mind, and I pulled into the side, relaxing before I did the final length to get out. As I did this, I dived under at a particular spot, and closing my eyes, remembered my first kiss, the sweetest kiss of all. First love never died. It was just supposed to fade happily into people's memories. Leaving the pool car park, I turned and looked back at the point where James used to stand and wave when we'd first met. Smiling, I returned home to change and drove into work, suddenly feeling that life was not too bad after all. I had the whole day ahead of me, a couple of hours doing the Saturday Request Fest on Love Shack Radio, and then out to the local Chinese with Jack, Paul and Ian, who I worked with. I grabbed my phone and dropped Charlie a text, asking if she was okay and what time she would be home on Sunday. I put the phone away in my bag, knowing that I'd be lucky to get a reply until evening. There was definitely something about Mitchell that was so familiar and safe. Perhaps it was because he reminded me of James. After my radio show, I arranged to meet the guys outside the restaurant at 7. The meal was fantastic and the company even better, as we laughed about all the strange requests that found their way to air. We discussed the Rock on the River event at length, and surrounded by my friends, I felt that life was worth living again. This project was just what I needed, and perhaps if I could move on, then I could find happiness again. Jack kissed me goodbye before I went home. "Are you okay?" he asked. "You seemed a little quiet tonight." "Yeah, I think so. It's just been strange in the house without Charlie around." "Where is she?" "Up in Warwickshire with her new boyfriend, Mitchell." "Don't you like him or trust him?" "No, it's not that. He's a lovely guy. But he really reminds me of James." "You remember James, don't you?" I asked. "Oh yeah, that hot guy you were dating when we first worked together," Jack replied. "Is that a bad thing then?" "No, but it's bringing back all these memories that I thought I'd left behind." I sighed as Jack pulled me in for a hug. "It will be okay. You're a great woman, and if I wasn't gay I'd fancy you. You should get back on the dating scene again. You shouldn't be alone." "Well, maybe I will, but the main thing is working on our fundraiser event. It's going to be huge." "Sure will," Jack replied. "Now get going and I'll see you soon. You should pop into the hospital sometime." "Yeah," I said, realising I hadn't been back there since Mark was stabbed in the car park. That was another ghost I had to lay to rest in order to move on with my life. So I hope you've enjoyed this evening's instalment. Don't forget, you can buy the ebook on Amazon for a very, very cheap and reasonable price, or you can purchase the paperback copy now on Amazon too, or if you want to get in touch with me directly on Facebook or Twitter, feel free, and I'm more than happy to sign you a copy and post it over to you. So once again, happy listening, and please feel free to like, share and subscribe to my lovely YouTube channel, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.